Welcome to episode number 352 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. You can find us by searching for Beyond Social Media Show. We are recording on June 6, 2021. A ton of things to talk about this week, including alien Oreos, brands soft power, Amazon says legalize it, Dunkin paint, the Tulsa Massacre, Apple's ad, Amazon Sidewalk, Hootsuite jacks customers, Twitter certification, Stetson Disowns HatWRKS, music streaming, and stick around for some stats on brands hearting influencers. But we kick it off with the best story of the week, and BL, you have that honor as usual. And this one's a doozy. What do you got?
This is a doozy. Oreo is making a peace offering to aliens. They created limited edition cookie packs to serve as a peace offering for potential extraterrestrial visitors. And this is ahead of the congressional report on UFOs that's scheduled for release on June 27th. So the stories from Marketing Dive and from Oreo, and on Marketing Dive, it was Peter Adams' story. And so the government has to disclose all they know about UFOs by June 27th, 2021. And in case they're out there, says Oreo, we're extending an intergalactic olive branch to any visitors, which are Oreo cookies. We made a signal in a known UFO hotspot, and we'll build our Oreo offering with the help of our fans. So fans were asked, this was heavily social media, on Twitter, fans were asked what snacks they should leave for the aliens. And so fans voted for double stuffed and milk, because everybody needs to dunk, and so that's important. So they created these cookie packs, and the offering is what they were called, and they encouraged consumers to place an Oreo at the center of the pack, which had this place for putting your cookie, and it was marked with a elaborate glyph-like cookie design, and then you were supposed to put it where it would have a clear view of the sky. And you could get these cookie packs for free on their website while they lasted, but they ran out of them. And of course, you could get that in exchange for your email and your mailing address. So Oreo published a series of social videos around the product drop, and they had these Twitter polls to gauge which snacks any alien life form might want. And Oreo is known for tying itself to buzzy social moments, and double stuff and whole milk for Dunkin won the snack part. Consumers also chose what room to put the offerings in, and they chose bedroom furniture as preferred set decoration. And then there was a special box that has the offering of the double stuffed and the milk, and it's in this room. And so they staked out a site on a farm in America's heartland that allegedly is famous for UFO activities, and as part of the offering. And then they made a series of videos, and the first one shows representatives named Robert and Jamie leaving out Oreo products on a curated pad as a gift to extraterrestrial visitors. And then they're startled to find that the cookies and the milk are gone, and there's a 3-acre wide Oreo shaped crop circle emblazoned on the ground. What a great campaign.
So, I mean, it's a good idea, I think, to make a peace offering, as it were, of Oreos. I mean, if you're going to make a peace offering, I suppose Oreos is pretty good offering to make. It was the Stephen Hawking is the one who says that we should not be reaching out and letting aliens know that we are on Earth, because they're more than likely to be hostile. So we shouldn't be telling the aliens that we're here. And along those lines, I'm like, does it really make sense, if you're going to do that, to leave the cookies in your bedroom? Because that's where you were abducted from. That's where you get abducted from, is your bedroom. Don't you want to put it as far away from the bedroom as possible? It seems to me that's the logical thing to
Well,
do.
that wasn't the prevailing view. But here's the deal. I mean, aliens, according to ufologists, and my friend Peter Robbins is a leading one, has a radio show about UFOs. According to them, aliens are already among us, and the idea that they're little green men with big eyes is perfectly silly because look how different we look. Look how different people look all over the world. Why would all aliens be little green men? So this will, it would be really cool if aliens did come and eat the cookies, in my opinion.
As long as that's the only thing that they ate.
Well, if they wanted to hurt us, they would have already done it. I mean, they're clearly been in the sky and they disappear. And, I mean, if they wanted to hurt us, they'd hurt us.
Yeah, yeah.
So we could do a whole show about this and have Peter as our guest,
So there's no transition here. I came across a fascinating article on Brand Strategy Insider by Nigel Hollis, who is the author of The Global Brand. And he makes the analogy. So he talks about the idea of soft power. Now, if you paid any attention to international affairs, public, you would be familiar with the term of soft power, but it has been used, it's primarily used in the term of geopolitics, where soft power in international relations is contrasted with hard power. So hard power is military force, economic force, the things that basically coerce people to do things or coerce people to do what you want them to do. Soft power is persuadable power. It's
diplomacy.
It's diplomacy, but also it's more so it's cultural, a culture's values and as expressed through like popular culture. So one of during the 80s and the 90s, one of the most powerful things about American supremacy in the world was simply our popular culture that everybody consumed, our entertainment, which contained within it the notions of freedom and democracy and all the things, all the values that we hold dear as a nation. And so he makes the analogy of the political context of soft power to brands wielding both hard and soft power. And so if you think about Apple, Apple's hard power is its innovation in its products. So it creates new products. It's created the iPod, and out of that, the iPhone, and then customer service. It came, the customer service you get when you go to an Apple center is second to none. So that's kind of their hard power and their ability to control the distribution of their products. So they own the distribution process from beginning to end. And the leverage that they have, because they have that closed system, because they have that distribution system, they have their own software, they have their own hardware, they have leverage over other companies that they're displaying right now with their shutting down of the privacy things with the latest iOS update. So that's their hard power. Their soft power is the ability for them to create demand. So they create a product and then they create demand for that product. Their ability to get people to want to use their products, which is their persuasive marketing ability. And he makes, and the ability to pay the price for the product that you want them to pay. iPhones are $1,000. That's a lot of money for a phone, right? But people pay it, right? He makes the point that an online video has very little coercive power, but has a lot of power to seed ideas and influence and attract. So it's a fascinating article. Put a link to it in the show notes. But it was an interesting way of thinking about brands that I hadn't really considered before.
I like that idea a lot. I mean, I think that Firefox just launched their latest, and you can make it impossible to track you if you're using Firefox. And even Chrome has now started to build in some ability to stop being tracked. And, I think Apple has something to do with that. But I have a story about Amazon, and this is from Bill Chappell at NPR and also from the Amazon blog. Amazon's going to pot. They're going to stop testing workers for marijuana, except for drivers. And and now they back legalizing weed. So they announced that they're going to stop testing job seekers for pot unless they're applying for a job that is regulated by the Department of Transportation. That includes delivery truck drivers and the people who operate heavy machinery. And even before New York legalized marijuana, New York City banned testing prospective employees for marijuana with some exceptions. And based on that law, a New York man sued Amazon in March, saying that the company illegally reversed a hiring offer because he tested positive for THC, which is the active ingredient in pot. So the company said its public policy team will be actively supporting the MORE Act, the Marijuana Opportunities Reinvestment and Expungement Act, that adds momentum to legislation that was reintroduced in Congress this past Friday. And that the MORE Act would remove, at long last, weed from the list of drugs and controlled substances of the federal list of controlled substances, making its status similar to alcohol and tobacco. They would also tax this, we knew this was coming, tax cannabis products, directing some of that money toward investments in communities that have been harmed by marijuana's criminalization. So if you're going to work at Amazon and you want to smoke a joint before you go for your interview, feel free.
Well, I wonder what interest Amazon might have in wanting pot legalized.
Well, you know, they're going to sell it. They're going to grow it. They're going to sell it. I mean, I can tell you that at the start of my career, I was working for Hoffman LaRoche, and they were already growing marijuana. And that was a long time ago, because this was inevitable. Inevitably, it was going to be legalized. And you know, it soon will be. I mean, the way they did it in New York is kind of funny. Like, it's okay to have a couple of ounces and it's okay to smoke outside. Okay, everybody's smoking. Walk down the street, smells great.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, Amazon is the distribution system for retailers, and pots
For the world.
retail outlet. So so there you go. Dunkin Donuts is in the news. This is from a Yahoo article by Jada Jackson. Dunkin has done a collaboration between themselves and a direct-to-consumer company that makes paint called Backdrop is the name of the company. They produce paint. And so now Dunkin fans can paint their homes with the pink and orange brand colors of Dunkin' Donuts, because Dunkin' is making their colors available as paint through this collaboration with Backdrop. It is a limited edition run of the bright orange and bright pink colors, brand colors for Dunkin', and you can buy them on the Backdrop site for $39 each. They're sold as half-gallon sized recyclable steel cans. Apparently, this is the first time Backdrop has ever sold paint in this size, figuring, I guess, that people are not going to paint their entire rooms in pink and orange. I don't see it, but I do see it as a good PR stunt.
That's funny. I actually like their pink. You know, I would use that color. Orange, I don't know. Orange is sort of a color of madness, if you ask me. But so that was my good news. So you got more good news, go right ahead. I'll be on to bad news when you're done.
I do. Well, this could be in bad news because of the topic, but it's in good news because of the execution. This is the Tulsa Race Massacre story by the New York Times.
Fabulous.
9 reporters worked on it. It is just a remarkable piece of historical reporting, but it's also an amazing piece of interactive storytelling. So as you scroll through the article online, it uses parallax scrolling technique to allow you to take a tour of the Greenwood neighborhood, which is Black Wall Street. And the Times reconstructed a 3D model of Greenwood to help illustrate the terror that was inflicted on the residents of Greenwood in 1921, when a white mob literally bombed and terrorized the city and burned it to the ground. The businesses and the wealth that was destroyed, the cultural centers that were decimated, the lives that were shattered. It's an amazing piece of work by the New York Times. Also, we'll include the HBO Watchmen series intro, which depicts that in its opening scene, the Tulsa Race Massacre. And then CNN is also running a documentary called Dreamland, which is the burning of Black Wall Street. And we'll include a trailer in the show notes as well for those, because just amazing, what a piece of history that every American should know about. But the New York Times article was just well done.
They have been doing such spectacular interactive articles, and they do one about every 10 days, and whatever staff they have doing that, they're spectacular and they get better and better. Yeah, that's a really astonishing piece of journalism. Are we on to bad news?
Well, yes, but I put this one in good news, so it'll start in good news and will end in bad news. How's that?
Okay.
This is Apple. We talked about Apple. We mentioned Apple briefly earlier. Apple has been running an advertisement in heavy rotation for their new iOS update, which features at the beginning Felix, who gets a coffee at a coffee shop, and the barista immediately starts following him after he buys his coffee, forces himself into an Uber with Felix, and the Uber driver asks for Felix's name and date of birth, and the barista supplies the answers to the Uber driver. The song "Mind Your Own Business" by Delta 5 is the soundtrack for the ad. The lines in the song say, "Can I have a taste of your ice cream? Can I lick the crumbs from your table? Can I interfere with your crisis? Can you hear those people behind me?" And by the end of the ad, Felix has as he goes throughout his day, he accumulates a whole crowd of people following him who are looking at his data. They're tracking him throughout the day. So the ad is a personification of digital tracking. And as he goes throughout his day, more and more people start tracking him. And it ends with a shot of him sitting in a crowded room with all of these people around him. And he picks up his mobile phone, looks at the screen, and there's a mobile app that has a warning on it reading, "Allow pal about to track your activity across other companies' apps and websites, ? And then your data will be tracked and sold to other companies, and you have the option of tapping on either ask app not to track or allow." He, of course, taps ask app not to track, and poof, all of the people around him start exploding into dust. So the ad ends with the song's chorus, "No, mind your own business. Why don't you mind your own business?" It is a great ad illustrating Apple's dedication to privacy. And you know how I feel about that, BL. It's very self-serving, but great ad. But then there's this Business of Apps article by Ann Freer, who reports that Apple has been adding a new advertising feature to the search tab, and it's called Apple Suggest Ads. It's located in the search tab and appears before you even search anything, so it's right there out in the front. You don't even have to search. They've been testing this. This new ad format with the rollout of iOS 14.5 in beta. So this was all a lead up to their advertising gambit. Search ads generate about 1 billion in revenues for Apple each year, but those are search ads targeted to keywords. So this will presumably generate even more because it's an ad just on the regular screen. So yeah, this was all about advertising.
I'm trying to remember another article I read about that ad, which says that they totally ripped off the creator of it and showed frame by frame how that ad was not original to Apple. Yeah. And I will see if I can find that, because it was really rather horrifying.
Wow.
A company that big has to do that? I think not. And I think the ad was from several years ago. And this does happen. I'm trying to remember, we have covered big companies ripping off artists in the past, And, it's something that does happen. It's kind of sad. But this one, could have been, the ones I have in bad, like could have scanned good and bad, I guess. This is a suggestion from Gizmodo from Lucas Ropek that says opt out of Amazon's Sidewalk immediately, because they say it's unsafe because you're going to be part of this weird network. It's a network sharing experiment, and like all things that start out this way, it has the potential to become dangerous. So users of Amazon Ring and Echo have about a week to opt out of the sketchy new IoT Internet of Things service called Sidewalk. And the feature goes live on June 8th, and it promises that it will share an encrypted sliver of your home network with the networks of other nearby Amazon Internet of Things device users as a way to, quote, improve services. So unless you specifically tell it not to, Amazon will automatically enroll you in Sidewalk, which it's easy to imagine could lead to some potentially unwanted privacy and security issues down the road. It's essentially a bandwidth sharing arrangement that promises improved service for the devices in some circumstances. And they use the example of, Amazon uses the example of a smart lighting product set that's set up at the edge of a user's property or a garage door lock that happens to be located in a poor coverage zone. So in both scenarios, they could get connectivity support from a participating neighbor's gateway and then continue to operate the device if it falls offline for a period of time, as the company puts it. But Amazon claims that Sidewalk can be used to bolster the connectivity of pet finder devices and also allow for continued tracking of a lost pooch or a feline who's wandered outside the reach of a pet owner's personal network. Ropek says if the idea of sharing part of your network with the neighbors is totally fine with you, please consider the fact that Amazon is a company of liars who cannot be trusted. Despite its promises to keep your data safe, he says, Amazon doesn't have a stellar track record on this front. In fact, it's pretty shitty at it. The good news is that it's incredibly easy to opt out. In the case of Echo devices, you just open the Alexa app and then you go to more settings, account settings, Amazon Sidewalk, and off. And if you're using Ring, you visit the control center on the app or the website and you disable Sidewalk as a feature, and that's it. Remember, was it 2 years ago? I have no sense of time since COVID, but remember when all of a sudden there were people talking to little children in their bedrooms from, outside, and that's going to happen again. So there is to it. There's going to be issues with sharing your network with your neighbors. I guarantee it.
Yeah,
so
maybe not. I read that piece as a bit of techno panic. Is like, yeah, well, okay, they're sharing network bandwidth, so all of a sudden all of these horrible things are going to happen that haven't yet happened. No proof of them. So I kind of like, yeah.
If you want to trust Amazon with your privacy, more power to you. I know you have them all over your house.
I have Xfinity as a internet provider. Great fan of Xfinity.
Oh, you got rid of Comcast?
It's the same thing.
Oh,
different name. They just rebranded. So I have them as a internet provider, and they do the same thing. They, I can go to downtown Minneapolis and go to a coffee shop, and rather than using the coffee shop's open Wi-Fi network, as an Xfinity subscriber, I can log into their Wi-Fi in a secure way, so that I'm not sharing my data with anybody who's at the Wi-Fi at the coffee shop, because they have this network sharing infrastructure in place. So yeah, it's very convenient. Of course, stuff can happen. Of course,
and stuff will happen. But we can look at it again in a few months.
Yeah,
and see what we've read about it.
I hope the reporters tell me when something actually happens.
Okay, well, I'm not going to be trying it.
All right. Speaking of panic, I got notified by Hootsuite. I am more than a decade subscriber to Hootsuite. I've been paying them $5.99 a month for more than a decade. But I got an email informing me that they were going to increase my prices, which is fine. I mean, $5.99 is pretty inexpensive for a social media management service. But they were going to increase my price to $75 a month.
What?
Rather than $5.99 a month and increasing it to $9.99 a month, or what you would think would be a gradual increase, they are jacking it up to $75 a month. So yeah, that's not going to work for me. That's too much. There's an article by HatWRKS, and this is apparently a not a competitor necessarily, but another social media management kind of company. And they make the argument from, I'll include a link in the show notes. They say Hootsuite is practicing typical business practice. 10 years ago, I'm sure $5.99 user was awesome account for them. Now their focus is on agencies and companies. They pay the 4 to 5 figures a month. They probably don't even really want a $75 a month account. The large increase isn't a cost of service adjustment. If they increase from $5.99 to $9.99 a month after 10 years, it is we don't want these users anymore. Without these early $5.99 a month users, there would be no Hootsuite, which is a good point. So yeah, I'm not going to use Hootsuite. I canceled my account. I went to Buffer. Buffer is a $15 a month account that is fine for my personal social media management stuff. But here's the other thing, all those $5.99 a month subscribers who just had their price jacked up to $75 a month, a lot of them are communications people. Are they going to be recommending Hootsuite to their clients? I'm not.
No way. Well, I just had a similar experience. I had been with RCN as my internet provider for nearly 20 years, and they suddenly increased my monthly internet by $60 a month. And I called them up. I'm like, this is like the wrong time. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, everybody's hurting. What are you doing? And they said, too bad, that's too bad. And so I said, well, go through the whole charade where you go to the retention person and all of that. No, we're not going to do anything for you. So I switched to Spectrum, and Spectrum's been great. What do I get from RCN? Oh, we're so sorry to see you go. How about a free month and we'll lower your rate? And I'm like, too little too late, you jerk. I mean, really, I mean, when there are things that are for new customers only, this always curls my hair, because you should be rewarding your long-term customers, not screwing them.
It's harder to recover. It's harder to regain a customer than it is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of subscriptions, Twitter is beta testing a paid version, and this could be an either good or bad. The new paid version is testing in Australia and somewhere else. And this is from the Twitter blog, and also from it's from the Twitter blog. And so it's their first ever subscription, and it's called Twitter Blue. And the blog says, we're developing and iterating, I love that word, iterating, we're iterating, it's like we're ideating upon a solution that will give the people who use Twitter the most what they are looking for. Good sentence. Access to exclusive features and perks that will take their experience on Twitter to the next level. Iterating, so they say free Twitter will never go away. Twitter Blue will have features like you can make folders for your bookmarks. Like, that's not a big lack in my life. You can undo a tweet. You get 30 seconds to undo send, but still no spell check, which is something Twitter really needs. There's a reader mode. I don't know exactly what the problem is about reading a thread right now, but they say they're going to make it easier to read a thread. And then faster support response time. In other words, customer service only for those who pay. And then quote, plus other surprises. And the post tells you to follow Twitter Blue. And when you go to do that, their tweets are protected because I guess it hasn't launched in the US. So they also announced they're bringing back applications for verification. And John Christopher Kellogg tweeted, future premium features should include no ads, longer video uploads, up to 10 pics per tweet, and an edit button. I disagree about the edit button because I think people like the former guy would have abused it. And people who tweet explosive things still have the option of deleting them when they get called on it. But edit is, in my opinion, all wrong for Twitter. But this might be interesting, but it's going to be like $3.69 a month or something like that, and remains to be seen whether we want to pay.
Yep, I don't know what to think about that. I'll tell you when we get it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So do you have another one?
I do. This is awful. There's a company in Nashville, Tennessee called HatWRKS.
Oh, I hate this story.
Yeah, HatWRKS is how you pronounce it. HatWRKS. And this woman, the owner of this company, decided that it would be a good idea to sell 6-pointed stars of David patches with the words "not vaccinated" printed on them, which is, of course, a direct analogy to the Holocaust when German Jews were forced to wear the Star of David patches by the fascist Nazi regime. And it is, of course, implying that anti-vaxxers are being persecuted just as the Jews were in Nazi Germany, which is
ridiculous,
absurd. The words aren't sufficient enough. The store owner's name is Gigi Gaskins, and she attended the fascist insurrection on January 6th. She posted a photo there while she was there of the attempted overthrow of her democracy on her store's Twitter account. Turns out she applied for and received $92,982 in PPP loans from the very democracy she despises. People predictably turned to Twitter and the company's Yelp page to express their outrage. The company's Twitter account has been deleted. Its Yelp account has been locked. And the woman's company carried the famous Stetson brand of hats. And the company, upon learning of the controversy, was quick to respond to consumer outrage by posting on Twitter. Initially posting on Twitter, "We are aware of the situation in Nashville. We take this matter seriously and are investigating in order to take the necessary and appropriate next steps. Along with our distribution partners, Stetson condemns anti-Semitism and discrimination of any kind." So, crisis response 101, they put up a holding statement, so we're aware of what's going on, we're looking into it. Later that day, they followed up that tweet with another one that said, "As a result of the offensive content and opinion shared by HatWRKS in Nashville, Stetson and our distribution partners will cease the sale of all Stetson products. We thank you for your continued support and patience." So, good on them. They immediately responded and took the appropriate steps. But yeah, horrible story.
We should pronounce the name of her store HatWRKS.
Right.
Yeah, really. It's horrifying. So this is not quite on the same level, that's for sure. But I am the owner of a patch that says Jewish Space Laser Corps, and I have that patch on a jacket. Anyway, this is from a New York Times article by Ben Cesario, and this is about how streaming music has changed the music business and how artists are getting ripped off. And so now there's a rebellion brewing among songwriters and musicians that may force the next revolution in how popular music reaches listeners. And when the pandemic struck, of course, all concert dates were canceled, and that's how most bands make the majority of their income. And apparently Spotify, Apple Music, Google, and others services pay them a pittance, according to this new advocacy group that's formed called the Union of Musicians and Allied Workers. And they're mounting a guerrilla campaign against Spotify. And the big problem is that we individual listeners at one time would spend maybe hundreds of dollars a month on vinyl and CDs. And now with streaming services, what do we pay, $10 a month? And so Spotify distributes payments in a strange way. It's based on artist popularity, but the way they do it, if Drake generates 5% of Spotify revenue this month, then he gets 5% of that month's royalties generated by fees paid by subscribers, including those who don't listen to Drake like me. So industry estimates put Spotify's payout rate for recordings at about $4,000 per million streams, which is basically less than half a cent per stream. And then that money can pass through a record company before it gets to the artist, and hundreds of millions of streams are needed for an artist to net anything substantial. And then again, Spotify has a free tier that allows users to listen to music with ads. That even reduces further the amount that each listener contributes to the pot. So Spotify counters that only 472,000 artists have crossed a certain threshold of professional activity, which the company defines as having released, this is a really high bar, having released more than 10 tracks and drawn more than 1,000 monthly listeners at some point in 2020. 5.6 million artists have never released more than 10 tracks in total. So artists who are on Spotify. But even among the subset of the presumptive professionals that they recognize, at most 39% of them earned maybe $39, 39% earned maybe $1,000 last year from Spotify. And one study says the bottom 99% of artists receive an average of $26 a year in royalties from Spotify. So the Union of Musicians and Allied Workers wants Spotify to pay 1 cent per stream, which might be impossible with its current business model. So apparently 3 major music companies, Universal, Sony, and Warner Brothers, now produce 2/3 of all music consumed in America. And 4 companies, Spotify, Amazon, Google, and Apple, have a near total hold on the streaming market. So the good news is that last month, responding to years of pressure from the music industry, Spotify raised prices on some of its subscription plans in the US, Britain, and Europe, and that might result in a slightly higher payout to musicians. But it's a thorny problem because of concerts, and also because that's how we get music now.
Yeah, I was listening to This Old Marketing podcast, Pulitzi and Rose's This Old Marketing podcast. I can't remember which episode, but they were talking about a solution. This was for writers, but the same thing could be applied for musicians as well. There are companies out there, people out there working on platforms that combine blockchain ledger with your non-fungible tokens. And so putting a subscription service in place that would allow musicians, or writers in this case, but musicians as well, to create their content on this platform and get paid appropriately for what their content is worth. And the value would be, the audience that they can attract to it and pay for it. But theoretically, it would allow musicians to independently create their own audience of super fans who are willing to pay, them basically to make a living writing or making music. But it was an interesting concept. I'll try and find the episode and we'll include in the show notes.
In my interview last week with Tom Herman, we talked about how NFTs affect music and art. And the way that happens is that you own the copyright to the NFT, so that if anybody makes money off the song, the artist will always get a percentage. And with an artist, let's say that their painting sells for $1,000 and then years later sells for $1 million, in the traditional gallery method, that $1 million would not come back to the artist. But if the artist has an NFT that they own the copyright for, then they would always get a percentage. And that's what's probably going to have to happen in the music business.
Right. So the terms are embedded within the code of the
exactly
contract. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. So you got more bad news?
I don't. I'm done.
I got a smile. I love this smile. This is called You Got Gold, and it celebrates the life and the songs of John Prine. October 3rd to 10th in Nashville, Tennessee, there's going to be a series of concerts, and each of these shows has a unique surprise lineup of friends performing and celebrating John Prine's intimate life and songs. Proceeds from the week benefit a newly created nonprofit called the Hello in There Foundation. And it is established by the Prine family to honor John's memory. The work of the foundation is inspired and guided by John's simple song, which he wrote when he was like 23, Hello in There, talking about how you should speak to old people. And it aims to identify and collaborate with individuals and communities where people of all ages are marginalized, discriminated against, or for whatever reason, forgotten. So 2 Nashville-based nonprofits will receive this year's inaugural grants from the foundation. One is called Room in the Inn, that provides shelter, emergency services, transitional programs, and long-term solutions to help homeless people rebuild their lives. The other is Thistle Farms, which I actually have participated in fundraising for, and they provide safe housing, healthcare, counseling, and employment for women survivors of trafficking, prostitution, and addiction. They have safe houses where they can transition out of their situations. And the Prine tribute concerts, which wrap up on what would have been his 75th birthday, represent a beautiful example of content marketing. They honor his life and his work, and also they serve a higher purpose that's not directly tied to sales, which is what I just really love about it. And I was like his biggest fan. And I am quite sure that John Prine is now in heaven. And he said when he got to heaven, he was going to smoke a 10-foot long cigarette and drink as much as he wanted. So I hope that's what he's doing. And I have another smile, and this one's hilarious. This is it's a swinging cat. And this was, every Saturday on Twitter is Catterday hashtag. So here was one of this man who takes his cat to the park. The cat jumps on a swing and the man pushes it. And, and the cat jumps up and clearly loves it, and the guy stands there like he's pushing a kid. It's hilarious.
That's funny. That's funny. Did you see the video of the California teenager who there was
bear?
There was a brown bear coming up on the ledge of their balcony or whatever, trying to swat away her dogs, the teenager's dogs, because she was worried about the dogs threatening her cubs. So it was a reaction to the dogs. But the teenager comes and literally pushes the bear off the ledge and then saves her dogs and pulls her dogs and runs back into the house. Insane.
She ran out there in 2 seconds flat. On the Today Show, they played it in slow motion. And as she said later, you would have to be out of your mind to do what I did. And the bear actually had her service dog in its claws. Yeah. And that's what she was doing. She was grabbing it from it, but she pushes it. What does that thing weigh, 400 pounds? She did a little slip of a thing. It was so funny. But yeah, she went mama bear on the mama bear.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did.
They need a higher fence, that's for sure. And apparently this was a Monday, and normally the bear, she would have had the dogs inside because the bears come around on Tuesday when the trash is put out. So this was Monday. Nobody expected them.
Wow. All right, let's get on the shiny new stuff. I got a very good one. This is called Measure Chat, and it is a analytics community on Slack. So it's just a bunch of analytics geeks like myself, and it's very, very active, extremely active. You need to request a membership. You provide your LinkedIn profile to be vetted to make sure that you're a analytics geek. And they get in, and there's just tons of people talking about all various different aspects of analytics. There's just sub channels on Google Analytics and Adobe Analytics and all kinds
just
of stuff.
Your thing, Dave.
Yeah, so we'll put a link to that in the show notes for people who are interested.
I got a good one too. This is called Involve.me, Involve Me, and it's got unbelievable amount of free tools for engaging with customers, templates for lead generation, forms and quizzes and tests and lots more. And it integrates with MailChimp, Microsoft products, HubSpot, PayPal, and lots more. And of course, there's a paid version, I'm sure, but the free version has so much good stuff. So I will have a link to that in the show notes.
All right. And I couldn't complain about Hootsuite without offering the alternative that I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to give a shout out to Buffer. They have a free version for social media management. And I think it's like one account and everything. So, but their pricing levels range from $15 a month to $99 a month. And depending upon the number of channels you want to manage, the number of scheduled posts, the number of posts you want to schedule, and the number of users you need to access the account. But there you go. I'll put a link to Buffer so people can
That sounds good.
have an alternative to Hootsuite.
I took the SEO certification on LinkedIn this week.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. So it was easy. But so I have a pro tip that's not really mine, but Poynter is offering a course on how to spot online misinformation. And it's aimed at senior citizens, but it might be aimed at them. But tens of thousands of people of all ages need to take it. And according to the free course outline, by the end of this short online course, you'll be able to define different types of misinformation, from memes to deep fakes, identify and consume online health news responsibly, especially surrounding COVID-19 vaccines. You'll be able to verify social media posts using tools and techniques that professional fact checkers use. And this is the cool part. Christine Amanpour, John London, Lester Holt, Harry Srinivasan, and Dave Jorgensen, who are MediaWise ambassadors, are going to pop in and share their advice as experienced journalists to help you navigate platforms like Google, Facebook, and more. And what they say is they're not going to tell you how to feel about topics or issues. They're just teaching you how to identify misleading or false or dangerous information. And the goal is to help you make a decision that, you know, may impact your health and well-being based on reliable, credible information. So I think that's worth taking, no matter, you know, who you are.
Yeah,
You don't have to be old to do it.
Yep. Very much needed. I got a pro tip from this is from it's from LinkedIn. I found it via an Ad Age article by Arjun Desi, and it is for LinkedIn advertising, video advertising. So one of the best things you can do is offer something of value. Obviously, that's a good tip. But they in particular say a demo or a promotion. They say use animation in your video. So ads with motion graphics have great performance gains compared to benchmarks. They say they have a 3% increase in click-through rate compared to their standard click-through rate benchmarks for video ads. Use captions, of course, if people are scrolling on mobile and don't have the sound on. Captions will tell what the video is about. And keep your copy short. So keep the copy that 3 lines or shorter, and get your key points across in the first 2 lines, because beyond that, you get the see more link, and that can reduce your engagement by 7%.
I would think it would reduce it by more. You know, wow, that's really short though, 2 or 3 lines. That's good advice.
Yeah.
So
right.
I'm done. You're on to weekly numbers, Dave.
Yep, let's wrap this up. Brands still love influencers. Remember when I was talking about, well, was the influencer bubble going to burst because of the pandemic? Apparently not. There's an April 2021 survey by influencer marketing platform Maverick. MAVRCK. Everybody's dropping balls these days. 68.1% of US adult influencers identified brand collaborations as generating the most income for their business. So brands are still spending on influencers. Affiliate marketing was a distant second, cited by 9.3% of respondents, followed by ads, 7.4%, and selling professional services, 7.1%. And so that's how influencers are getting paid. The majority of them are just through brand collaborations.
I liked it when it was blog influencers and Nikon gave us cameras to test. That was my favorite. It was a great camera. So that brings us to the end of episode 352 of the Beyond Social Media Show. And you just find us by searching Beyond Social Media Show. You'll see that we're everywhere. Links to everything we talked about today, including the original stories, will be at beyondsocialmediashow.com/352. And we hope you'll let us know what you think. And while you're there, subscribe to our weekly newsletter. And you will find us everywhere that you listen to podcasts. And now we're on Audible too. So I am here with the always charming David Erickson, who is D. Erickson on Twitter, D.E. Erickson on Instagram. He's on YouTube as E Strategy. He blogs at e-strategyblog.com. I am B.L. Achman. I am What's Next on Twitter. I blog at What's Next Blog. I'm What's Next Blog on YouTube. My website's blachman.com. Then on Instagram, check out Lucy the Rescue Puppy. The show, beyondsocialmediashow.com. And on Twitter, we're at BS Media Show. And next week, we'll be back with David doing an interview to be announced.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.